Welcome back, everyone. About 3 weeks ago, U.S. President Trump signed an executive order targeting the Smithsonian Institution, a collection of museums mostly in the U.S. Capitol, as well as the National Zoo. The directive is aiming to remove what he calls improper ideology from institutions. The Smithsonian order comes just weeks after Trump installed himself as chairman of the Kennedy Center, a major arts center here in Washington, which is a living memorial to President John F. Kennedy. Here's some reaction from tourists visiting the famous museums along the National Mall.
I'm pretty horrified that we are living in a world where our president is trying to actively dismantle a lot of opportunities for people to be educated and aware of other cultures and perspectives.
It is part of history, even though everyone doesn't agree with it. It still happened, and we can't erase that. We can learn from it, especially if we disagree with what happened.
The arts world faces upheaval beyond this executive order. New restrictions on diversity initiatives have already slashed funding for many artists. Meanwhile, the government's efficiency department, DOGE, has gutted staff and budgets at agencies supporting museums nationwide. Okay, for more on the state of the arts under President Trump, let's turn to Imani Cheers. She is a cultural curator and professor of digital storytelling at the George Washington University. Always good to have you on.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Okay, let's talk about the administration's actions toward the arts. The Smithsonian Institution, for example. Trump is targeting what he labels, his words, a divisive narrative and improper ideology. I'll let you take it from there.
Oh, that's heavy, Sean, but thank you. I will say that, you know, what we're seeing right now is authoritarianism. It should be alarming to not only all Americans, but a number of our allies and even adversaries worldwide when we have our president, our leader, intentionally attacking the arts, attacking culture in a way that we haven't seen, honestly, since Adolf Hitler. And we all know how that turned out. And so I think it's really important for all of not only our viewers, but those who are even passive participants in this process to understand that this is alarming. Taking over the Kennedy Center, deciding that places like the Smithsonian and all of its entities, in particular, the African American History and Culture Museum, and deciding that their policies and procedures are against, you know, ideologies that align with the current administration is really alarming and incredibly disturbing.
Yeah, let's dig into the Kennedy Center just a little bit more, his overhaul there. You know, what he himself, when he announced a new board and called himself the amazing new chairman of that facility. Talk about that, what it means, what the Kennedy Center means to Washington, D.C., and really, if you speak out against Trump, then it's not art, is basically the way it seems this administration is embracing all of this.
It's terrifying. As someone who has lived in the Washington, D.C. area for 40 of my 44 years on this planet, and lived within the D.C. area for the last 7, it is terrifying. The Kennedy Center is a beacon of not only cultural heritage, but artistic expression. To see it taken over is really concerning. And literally today, Sean, I don't know if your reporters and your producers saw that the Kennedy Center for a number of years have utilized the exterior of the building, which is a very historic and beautiful building, but have utilized the building to represent and support a variety of different groups that now they're going to a state where we're only going to have the colors of red, white, and blue, very strategically placed. as light displays around the building. And that's incredibly disturbing. We've seen that for a number of years that, for example, whether it be cherry blossom season or even supporting Pride,
Yeah.
month, which we normally in the United States celebrate in the month of June, and that's all going to be wiped away. And so what we're seeing now is the beginning. This is when the arts are weaponized. Um, we all should be alarmed.
Yeah. So
Because this isn't a matter of politics, but procedures and authoritarianism.
So how is it affecting funding for the arts, including artists and museums?
It's impacting it immediately. So we are seeing that funding is being frozen for a number of arts, not only institutions, but for example, grants for individuals, artists, and collectives who are looking to apply for grants for opportunities to display their work. We're seeing that it's being incredibly impacted. And for those of us who live in the city, yes, it's immediate, but I think, sir, it's larger.
Yeah.
It's larger than just those who live in the DC immediate area, like many of our viewers. But what we're seeing is really a global, not national, but a global conversation of the way in which the arts, culture, language, in particular, are being weaponized as a way of patriotism. And I do not say patriotism in a term that is really used in a way that is posturously positive,
Yeah.
but patriotism in a way that is divisive. That is anti-diverse. We know that the administration is obviously anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, but when there's an intentionality, what we are seeing right now to exclude, not include, but exclude communities, we should all be alarmed. And in particular, we should all be fearful because this is the beginning, unfortunately, of what I see is going to be a very swift and very quick decline of the arts and culture in Washington, D.C. and globally.
I think you make a good point. I can't thank you enough for your insight, and I do worry also about these venues, the community theaters, the community players all over the world as well. So, yeah, this is going to be something we continue to follow. Imani, thank you so much. We'll talk again soon, my friend.
Thank you, Sean.